Hey guys, I'm Nisa Homey. Today I'm sharing how I make sauerkraut at home. Sauerkraut is a type of naturally fermented cabbage. It helps to support good gut health. Sauerkraut means sour cabbage or sour vegetable in German. Including naturally fermented foods in your diet may help with good digestive health. So let's get started with the recipe. I'm using 1 kilo of organic cabbage. I'm slicing the cabbage into half and then I'm carefully removing some of the outer leaves of the cabbage. I'll be keeping aside these leaves which I'll be using later. I'm thinly slicing the cabbage. Okay, now I have sliced the cabbage and added into a bowl. Into this I'm adding in 1 tablespoon pink Himalayan salt, and with my hand I'm mixing the salt really well into the cabbage. So just mix and squish, and when you do like this, the moisture from the cabbage will start to release out because of the salt. With my hand I'm mixing and rubbing the salt into the cabbage. You need to massage the cabbage about 2 to 3 minutes or until you start to get water or moisture releasing out from the cabbage. As you can see, it has now started to get wet. So just a couple of minutes of massaging the cabbage. You can see that now my hands are getting wet, so moisture has started to release out. Just take a small portion and squeeze it tightly, and you can see water dripping out. So this is what you should be aiming at. I'm using a glass jar to store the sauerkraut. So this jar has been cleaned well and sun-dried. Fill the cabbage into the glass container. And as you fill, press it really tightly into the glass container. You can see that there's some remaining water in the pan. So you need to add this water as well into the container. And now with my hand, I'm pressing it really well. So as I press, you can notice water oozing up. You can see some water on top. So I'm going to press it really well. Make all the water come on top. If the cabbage does not stay below the water, fungus will develop. So you need to make sure that all the cabbage pieces are below the water. I hope you can clearly see the water in the container. So we need to make sure that all the cabbage are in the water. So I'm again pressing it with my hand. To help press down, you can also use a wooden muddler like the one I'm using now. You just need to press it really hard. Now, to make sure that the cabbage stays below the water, what I'm doing is I'm going to press the leaves which I had already taken out earlier and kept aside. I'm going to add the leaves on top of this jar just to make sure that everything is immersed in the water. So I'm taking a couple of leaves and I'm placing it inside the jar like this, and I'm pressing it down. I'm placing one more leaf on top. This is just to make sure that everything keeps submerged below the water. If you have fermentation weights, you can place that on top of this. This hard portion of the cabbage will prevent the leaves from coming up. So it will help to keep the rest of the cabbage down. And always make sure that your hands are really clean when you're making sauerkraut. Okay, now everything is nicely sealed inside. Now I'm going to cover it with the lid. I don't usually cover it tightly, just loosely covering it with the lid. And I'm going to let it stay at room temperature and ferment for about 3 to 5 days. Remember, I live in tropical Kerala, hence fermentation happens really quickly. However, if you're living in a cold place, you may need somewhere between 5 to 10 days for the sauerkraut to ferment. So for now, I'm going to keep it for about 5 days. It's day 5, that is, it is 5 days since I bottled the sauerkraut, and let's check on the sauerkraut now. The leaves on top are intact and the cabbage is submerged under the leaves, which means it is submerged in the water or moisture which has released out. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I live in tropical Kerala. For me, anywhere between 3 to 5 days is ideal for fermentation. Fermentation always depends upon the weather or climate of the place you live in. If you're living in a cold place, you may need 5 to 10 days of fermentation. So I'm going to remove the leaves, and then I'm going to transfer this to the refrigerator. So that is, this fermented sauerkraut, if kept in the refrigerator, it will stay good for up to 1 year. Fermented foods helps in good gut health. So always try to include fermented foods, especially naturally fermented foods like sauerkraut, in your diet. Always make sure that your hands are clean and dry when you are handling fermented foods. First, I'm removing the leaves which has been kept on top. And this is how fermented cabbage looks like. So this batch will keep good for up to a year or even longer in the refrigerator. I also like to label the sauerkraut. It's a really good idea to label fermented food so that you can know when you made it. So I have labeled it Sauerkraut August 2024. If you're a regular on this channel, you'll be seeing more recipes using sauerkraut. I'll also be sharing more fermented food recipes. So this is how fermented cabbage or sauerkraut looks like. You can add it in salads, sandwiches, or you can simply have a teaspoon of the sauerkraut along with any meal. This way you can keep your gut microbiome healthy, which will eventually help in your better health. One more thing, in the fermentation world, when you ferment or when you allow the fermented food to keep at room temperature for a longer time, it will become sour. So always restrict the room temperature fermentation to suit your sour taste. For me personally, I like my sauerkraut to be at room temperature for 5 days, and after 5 days I will transfer to the refrigerator. So guys, do try my version of sauerkraut recipe and let me know in the comments how it turned out. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.